What's up, family? Welcome to episode 7 of Stack Sats or Die Trying. My name is Jimmy. You already know this is the Bitcoin only show brought to you by the Hood. And we're going to get right into it. Just real quick, I want to send a special shout out to my brother Bar. We appreciate you being so transparent in episode 6 and 6.1 when you came on to kind of have a conversation with me. So for those who missed that, go and check last week's episode out. It was 6 and 6.1. It was 2 episodes talking about shitcoining. But this week we have a new topic to talk about within the area of Bitcoin, and I'll make sure to consistently bring this content to you every week. It's my favorite thing to talk about, so this is kind of easy work for me. You don't mind the shadowy supercoder hoodie. I was actually just working on routing more things to my node, my Lightning node, and we'll talk about nodes as well as the Lightning network in future episodes. That is not what we're here to talk about today. Today I have a specific topic that I want to talk about. Let me, bring up the presentation for today. It's Bitcoin versus Bitcoin. Now, I know a lot of folks are like, what do you mean Bitcoin versus Bitcoin? Like Bitcoin is Bitcoin, right? This has nothing to do with shitcoining. But if you notice, and by the way, salute to everybody who listens to the audio version of this content. It's appreciated because I do have like PowerPoint presentations that I do on the video version. But I'll make sure to try to explain it as much as possible. So right now, the first slide is Bitcoin versus Bitcoin. But if you notice, it's Bitcoin with a capital B and Bitcoin with a lowercase b. So people will say, why is that relevant? Because these are two different things. A lot of times I talk to people who do not believe in Bitcoin, don't understand Bitcoin. They could care less about it. And they hit me with the same nonsense about energy use, about it's not backed by nothing, about all kinds of, some of the stuff that everybody hears when they start to talk about Bitcoin. They confuse it with other cryptocurrencies. And the first question I asked them is, are you talking about Bitcoin big B or Bitcoin little b? If they don't know how to respond to that, then I know they haven't studied enough. So I don't even continue my conversation with them, because Bitcoin with a capital B is different than Bitcoin with a lowercase b. And pardon my neighbor's dog. I am in Philadelphia, and his dog is out there going wild right now. So if you can hear that, I apologize. But we're going to keep going. So there's a difference between capital B Bitcoin and lowercase b Bitcoin. And you have to clearly make that distinction when you're talking about Bitcoin, because a lot of people talked about, well, it's no longer decentralized because the banks are into it with the ETFs and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, which one are you talking about? Most people couldn't answer that question, because when you talk about little b and the ETFs accumulating a bunch of little b, it has nothing to do with capital B. So let's get into it. First thing I want to start with is a tweet that I saw. I'm always on Bitcoin Twitter. Also, if you're not familiar with Nostr, maybe a lot of you guys should learn learning Nostr, Nostr. I spend a lot of time on there now. I'm kind of fading off of Twitter. But this tweet, nonetheless, and I'll explain Nostr probably in a future episode, because it's a decentralized social media, which to me is going to be important moving forward because of censorship, and also just to be able the ability to kind of like own your thoughts and not have anyone delete your account. But this is not about that. This is about Twitter. American Hodl 8. This guy, he always has great information. I don't agree with everything he says, but I thought this was a very poignant tweet. He says, here's a mental trap. If you think that you'd have had more Bitcoin if you'd been here earlier, say, I never delude myself. If I'd been here 5 years earlier, I would have blown it. There are far more OG failure stories than there are successes. Having deep conviction is rare and difficult to maintain. I think that's important to start this conversation with as we get into Big B, Little B, and I'm going to explain why. Because a lot of the feedback that I've gotten since I started this series has been positive. It's probably 99.9% positive. But even in the positive comments, one of the things that's like a running occurrence is people saying, man, now that you've done this, I understand it a little more, but I wish I would have gotten started earlier. My response is, if you would have got it started earlier, you probably would have sold out at this point. So it kind of doesn't matter, because you would have sold when, let's just say you got in when Bitcoin was $100. Would you have had the conviction to hold once it hit 1,000? Would you have had the conviction to hold once it hit 10,000? All right, so probably not. So at that point, it's no sense in spending time thinking about what you would have done, because most people wouldn't have had the conviction to hold from $100 to 10,000 to 20,000. And then when you see the dips, would you have had the conviction to hold? So again, don't get caught up in that, because even most people that got in early, they don't have as much as they should, because a lot of them didn't hold. And who could fault them, right? But once you start to understand what Bitcoin is and you get that conviction, then it sounds crazy. You don't really care about price. I don't even concern myself with price. And I've said this in previous episodes, other than the fact that because I have a lot of friends and family that are in the space, either because of me or just they got into the space. And when price goes up, my phone goes crazy. And when price goes down, I also get those messages too. What's going on? What we doing? And for me, because I understand what the asset is, I don't concern myself with price at all. In fact, I'm all into the point where this past week, I literally went to get some of my precious metals that I had in various safety deposit boxes to kind of sell, to put it into Satoshis. I've literally sold pretty much 99.9% of all my precious metals. I only have a couple things that are of numismatic value that I haven't sold yet, because they're more difficult to sell, right? But even in going through that process of selling my metals, which the stuff that I stack for just for metal content, and this sounds like a whole other side quest that I'm going on right now with precious metals, and it's not. I'm about to bring it home. Just give me a second. Going through that process made me realize why I need to go through that process. The idea of, and I'm one of these people that was like, yo, if it shits the fan, I want to have metals over here and metals over there. So I had to ride for about an hour just to go get my stuff out of the safety deposit box. And I'm like, this is crazy. Then I have to go through the process of selling to the specific dealer that I sell to all the time. We have to go through that whole process. It's a whole lot of energy and time and money wasted. Whereas if I had that in a digital space, I could have been liquidated like that. So it's really about liquidity. But going through that process made me realize why I need to go through that process. And going through that process and thinking about other assets that I own is like, I need to really, move different as it pertains to liquidity. Liquidity has value and power. We'll talk about that another time. Now, getting back to this. So I think this tweet is poignant from American Hodl. So go follow him if you care to, learn more about Bitcoin. And also, as an aside, you see at the bottom of my slide, for those that may be listening, on every slide in this presentation, it has the hashtag StackSats or DoTrying. That's strategic. For the last several years, I've been building up a bunch of content under that hashtag on multiple social media sites. I had the idea to do either this podcast or possibly a book. So I got a bunch of thoughts, opinions, and also just hilarious memes. So if you go to Facebook and you look up StackSats or DoTrying, or you go to Instagram, or you go to Twitter, you go to Nostr, you go to anywhere and you put in hashtag StackSats or DoTrying, you'll see, my thoughts and opinions, right? So I've been thinking about this for a while. So when I'm dead and gone, my the next generation can look up StackSats or DoTrying and see that, I was thinking about things in this space for a long period of time. All right, but let's get into Big B versus Little B as we move forward, right? Because again, this tweet from American Hodl was just talking about conviction, and also the fact that even if you would have gotten, you could have gotten 2010, 2013, you would have either lost the Bitcoin you had, you would have lost your keys, something would have happened. But we're in a place now where the space is matured and there are services and things of that nature to help you really get yourself involved, to understand. All the literature wasn't around then. And having an understanding of Big B and Little B, most people didn't have that then either. You can always go back and read the white paper from Satoshi Nakamoto to get a lot of the information. But there are people now who are in the space who own a Bitcoin, who own Satoshis, still haven't read the white paper. So do yourself a favor. Go look up the Bitcoin white paper and read that. Some of it's not even that long of a document. You know what I mean? Go Google and look up the Bitcoin code. You can look at the code. It's an open source code, right? These are things that you need to do as you get more ingrained into the space to have a better understanding of what it is you hold. Once you understand what the asset is, moving forward is easy. Now, let's talk about Bitcoin Big B versus Bitcoin Little B. Shout out to my PowerPoint skills too, because I'll be creating the futuristic Bitcoin looking pictures to go on my. So if you're listening to this, go watch the video so you can see, some of the artwork that I got created for these PowerPoints, because I'll be killing it. Anyway, Big B. And I, cite my source at the bottom where I got the definition from, because I just like the way they broke it down. Bitcoin with a capital B. It refers to a whole complex of digital blockchain systems, a concept created in January of 2009 by a person or a group of people under the pseudonym of Satoshi Nakamoto. So this is the whole complex digital blockchain system. This is the network. This network itself has value, right? It's one of the biggest and most robust computer networks to ever exist. And this itself has value. You can build on top of this network. And people are using the network for various things even right now. Sometimes people complain about that because it makes moving value on the network more expensive, because people are using it for art and all kinds of other things. But it's an actual computer network. That network has value. That is Big B. Now, let's talk about Little b with a lowercase b. It's the virtual currency unit created by Big B, Bitcoin, the cryptocurrency with which it operates in the system. It's the unit of account, right? So when people ask you questions about Bitcoin or say things derogatory, ask them Big B or Little b. Their response will indicate how much time they've put into studying what Bitcoin is. And a lot of times people talk about things they don't know, which is always weird to me. You ever meet people that just got an opinion on everything? It's like, you can't know everything, right? Anyway, with all that being said, Big B and Little b are different, and both have different value propositions, but that network itself is where the value lies. That network is huge. The nodes, the miners, all are a part of a network which is global. Another thing I want to keep in mind that I continuously mention as we go down this journey on Stack Sats or Die Trying is, this isn't a national US thing. This is global. Bitcoin is global. There are people literally all across the world, some who rely on Bitcoin. So, we have to check our financial privilege sometimes, right? So anyway, with that being said, here's a tweet from Cathie Wood, the legendary financier. She says, Bitcoin is backed by the largest computer network in the world, a network orders of magnitude larger than the combined size of the clouds that Amazon, Google, and Microsoft have built over the last 15 to 20 years. That's a tweet from Cathie Wood. I'll repeat it again because she's talking about just how big and how valuable that Bitcoin network is, the Big B. She's backed by the largest computer network in the world, a network orders of magnitude larger than the combined size of the clouds that Amazon, Google, and Microsoft have built over the last 15 to 20 years. If you go and check Amazon, Google, and Microsoft, and you look at where the value lies in those companies, a lot of it is the size of their network, right? Well, some will say all of it's in the network, right? But just look at the clouds that they create, right? Whether that's, the Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, Amazon Web Services, all those. Bitcoin is, to use Cathie's words, right? Orders of magnitude larger than the combined size of those. That's what we're talking about. These aren't my words. These are Cathie Wood's words. Cathie Wood's actually came out this week, and you can Google this as well. Don't just take my word for it. Her new price target for Bitcoin is somewhere in the $3 million range. I don't necessarily like to talk about price because, like I said, I don't care. What I recognize is we're currently in the middle of a gold rush. So in the future, we'll look back at this and say, man, the next couple of generations in your family will sit back and say, why wasn't why wasn't nobody in my family buying this back in 2024? What was they doing? And they're going to look it up and find out you was having a debate whether you should have, dinner with Jay-Z or not, instead of understanding this huge shift that's happening right in front of your face. But I digress. Michael Saylor, who we mentioned last episode, here's a tweet from him. He said, Bitcoin is an immaculately conceived monetary system backed by the world's most powerful computer network. So these are people who are considered very educated and smart people who study. And when you see what they're talking about the network. A lot of times we get caught up in Bitcoin's price and what's going on with ETH and Doge and all this other nonsense, but most people aren't having the conversation about the actual computer network. It's so much value in that network and understanding that network. This past week, I've been spending a lot of time on the technical side, uh, doing certain things with the Lightning Network in my node. And the deeper I get into that rabbit hole, the more I'm like, yo, I'm not stacking hard enough. I gotta do more, which is why I was like, let me go get these last bits of, because I've sold a bunch of metals over the last couple of years, but I had a little bit left. I was like, yo, I'm not stacking hard enough. Because the deeper I get technically, the more I see what the value prop is. And it's like, I gotta go harder. I gotta like put it like this, right? Let's say you have a couple of horses, but you know this one horse is going to be the one to win the race. You're going to spend your time with that one. And it's like, I have all these other things that I've accumulated over a period of time, but I know what's happening here. So I'm going all in. With all that being said, though, this is a tweet from Michael Saylor for those listening that I just read. I'll repeat it again. He says, Bitcoin is an immaculately conceived monetary system backed by the world's most powerful computer network. Look at that, right? In conjunction with what Cathie Wood said. Let's look at an amalgamation of both of these thoughts, right? Bitcoin is backed by the largest computer network in the world, a network orders of magnitude larger than the combined size of clouds that Amazon, Google, and Microsoft have built over the 15, 20 years. She's talking about the network. He's talking about the network. Both of them have already put their money where their mouth is in terms of buying the asset. Michael Saylor runs MicroStrategy, which at this point is like a proxy for Bitcoin. They are getting ready to enter the S&P 500, and they haven't done anything different to their business other than put Bitcoin on the balance sheet and openly talk about doing so. I think that's the other part. He's very, very upfront, openly talking about how all in he is with Bitcoin. Cathie Wood, who runs ARK Investments, they have a Bitcoin ETF now. They're putting it part of their other ARK funds. And so she's all in as well. She says a huge percentage of her net worth is tied up in Bitcoin. So they've put their money where their mouth is, but when you watch them talk, they're talking about the network, which is why I wanted to have this conversation on today's show to talk about the network versus the currency. And when you're talking to people, make sure that they're talking about the right thing. If they don't understand that the network exists, stop talking to them. Like, I got caught into a couple conversations this week on various social media sites when people were talking like, Solana coin is doing this and that and the third. And like, what you think about this, Jim? Like tagging me and stuff. And it's okay. I appreciate the tags, right? But I don't engage in debate anymore. Like, not trying to, sound arrogant or anything like that, but it's just a waste of time. I'd rather spend that time fiat mining, right? People say, what's fiat mining? That's when I'm doing anything to get fiat so I can convert it into Satoshis, right? So whether that's like, whether that's going to work or selling something on eBay, all that's fiat mining. It's my new way of saying I'm hustling. I'm fiat mining, right? I'm mining fiat to turn to sats. And a lot of times I don't want to waste my time debating with someone because, cool, feel how you feel. I'm going to stack sats to die trying and keep it moving. Love you anyway. Because here's what's happening right now. And this is what people aren't paying attention to. In the 2010s, a lot of our consumer goods, right, software took them over. It's the reason why Microsoft is Microsoft. It's because Microsoft had Bill Gates and his team had an understanding early on that a lot of things would be eaten by software. Software is where the value lies in that computer network, right? So if you look at the smartphone or tablet, it's taken over your radio, your alarm clock, your TV, your map, how you get your news. It's now your camera and your phone book, right? You talk about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different things. And for those listening, I'll explain it again. It's a slide with a smart device, and it's showing that this device is now your radio, it's your alarm clock, it's your TV, it's what you use to navigate a map, it's where you get your newspaper, it's how you take pictures, and it's your phone book. So software ate consumer goods throughout the 2010s. We all have smartphones. Look, I got two of them sitting right here in front of me, an iPhone and an Android phone, right? You know, I do everything with my software on my smartphones. It's how I exist. It's how I communicate. It's how I navigate. It's where I watch content. It is my alarm clock. It's where I listen to music and podcasts, right? You know, but now in the 2020s, software is now going to eat monetary goods. So things such as artwork, right? Precious metals, diamonds, real estate, bonds, cash. Software is going to eat those things as well in the form of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is already taking value away from other asset classes. Now, when I say this, it's not to say that those asset classes are going anywhere. They're not. But a lot of value is going to flow from one to the other, right? Gold is already having a lot of its values going to Bitcoin. And if you don't believe me, just look at the data. Look at the inflows that are going into the ETFs of Bitcoin versus that of GLD, right? Look how fast the ETFs are growing. Look at the outflows coming from gold, right? Going into BTC. So again, don't take my word for it. I want you to research and investigate anything that I say. But once you have this understanding and then understand that software is part of a huge network, it just opens your mind up to thinking about things a little bit different than just, it's just something I go on Coinbase and buy. I always laugh when people say, show me how to buy them Bitcoin stocks. It's a protocol. It's not a stock. But like I said, I don't get into long debates no more. Here's a quote from one Satoshi Nakamoto, and you can look up his writings. It says, if you don't believe it or don't get it, I don't have the time to try to convince you. Sorry. I love this. Like, this is how I'm moving forward. Like, if you don't believe it or don't get it, I don't have the time to try to convince you. Sorry. I'm just not into debating anymore about this or anything else for that matter. Like, people try to hit me with the sports debates. Here's how I feel. If you don't believe it or don't get it, I don't have the time to try to convince you. Sorry. So shout out to Satoshi Nakamoto. It's a fire quote. But I just wanted to make sure I came on today to kind of have this conversation about Big V versus Little B, because we want to make sure we're having good conversations as we talk about this stuff. And people are really, if you're going to criticize it, criticize the right thing. And if you don't understand it, that's okay. Go learn. But there's a difference between Big B and Little B. The value proposition is there. Once you fully understand the value proposition, then the idea to move forward and to learn and to purchase and immerse yourself within the culture of Bitcoin becomes a little bit easier. Before I get out of here, I do want to say a couple things, man. I want to send a shout out to all the people that support this specific podcast and this show, because the feedback has been nothing but amazing. Special shout out to my brother Miche, man, because this airs on Fountain, which is a actual podcast platform that pays you Satoshis to listen to podcasts, believe it or not. But you can also tip the host of specific podcasts, and Miche did send a tip. So I want to send a special shout out to him. Special shout out to Jamil for always letting me know his feelings on the episode. My brother Ras Hassan always checks in about this episode. Also shout out to Jabbar for being transparent and sharing his information for the last episode. But I'll continue to bring different aspects of Bitcoin culture as well as Bitcoin technology, Bitcoin from an economic standpoint, and try to have, short conversations every week just to make sure that I'm sharing as I learn, and also to make sure that our folks will not get left behind. But I really do appreciate all the support, because when you guys give me feedback, it lets me know that I'm not wasting my time, because believe it or not, I spend so much time studying. Like when I get off here now, I'm going to, jump back into, the books, because, I enjoy it. I really do enjoy learning. And the thing about Bitcoin, it makes you a lifelong student. So it's, for me, this is like my happy place. But I do want to say that I appreciate all the support. And I want to shout those people out specifically because, they always make sure to let me know that they see what's going on, man. Also, our regular podcast is Wednesday. Friday, we are live. We give away sats, Bitcoin, every Friday and have been doing so for a couple years. I'm going to check back and see just how much we've given over. It's been several thousand. We've given away at least probably $5,000 to $10,000 in Bitcoin over the last couple of years, because we give it away to students at our camp. We give it away every Friday. When we do live events, we give away Bitcoin. So there's a lot of people that have considering that we were giving away Bitcoin when it was 15, 16,000, and now Bitcoin is what it is. A lot of people have come up, and I love it. I love when people say, yo, I got X amount because, you know, I got some free from you. That's dope. Those stories are dope, and it will continuously be dope because, you know, Bitcoin is deflationary. But so pull up Friday, check out the live show, and possibly win some Bitcoin, right? It is random. We give it away to people that are watching live with us and leaving comments. We give it away randomly. So we don't care if you win every Friday or you know, it's all random. With that being said, leave me some comments on this episode. Let me know what you think about Big B versus Little B. Let me know if that helped you in any way to make sense of, you know, what the value proposition is, or what do you think about Kathy Woods or Michael Saylor and their constant talk about the network? Because again, when you look at these folks who have their money invested and who also have an understanding and have spent millions of dollars to get their understanding, you start to see their conversations, and they're not the same as, you know, a lot of folks who are like, yo, we down 10,000, we up 2,000. They're looking at the network and understanding the value proposition of the actual network. So again, man, appreciate the love. I'll be back next week talking about something. You know, Jamil gave me a whole game plan of things he wants to learn about, possibly wallets, possibly Lightning. It's just so much to like dig into. But that's why I'm coming every week. Pause. No Diddy. That being said, love y'all. Appreciate y'all. Remember, stack sats or die trying. Peace.